Bev Buds.
Good morning, afternoon or evening, whatever time you're listening and wherever you're listening from. This is the Bev Buds. I'm your host, Trent Reardon.
I'm Daniel Gray.
I'm Kyle Wright.
And this Bev of the week is...
It is a Byron brew.
A Byron brew.
Yeah.
It's a premium lager.
I think they're made in Byron Bay.
You think?
It's called a Byron Bay
I'm
brew.
not sure.
Yeah. So last week we had Goon. How does that compare to last week's?
This is better.
It's
This
better.
is a lot better. Definitely a step up. First, I just want to thank each and every one of you, particularly just the one person that's probably listening. Thank you for returning
Yes.
to the podcast. I know the first one was a little bit bumpy along the ride, but we got there in the end.
That is true.
We promise they only get worse.
As we run out of things to talk about. But no, look, like I said in the last podcast, we've been talking about doing one for ages.
That's
I
right.
feel like we had fun with the first one. We made a second one. Will we make a third one? We don't know. We probably not. But yeah, we'll just see when as Trent gets sick of editing and we'll stop doing it.
I'd like to start off with my new segment.
What's your new segment?
It's a
Daniel's-
segment straight off the bat.
Yes.
What's it called?
Daniel's special thing.
Daniel's special thing. Go on, D.
That's a very special thing to me, Trent.
Right.
Harrison Ford.
So wait,
Is that it?
what's the segment?
Yeah.
Okay. Why is Harrison Ford special to you?
Just from something special he said lately.
Go on.
I think you know it.
Uh-huh.
But like this is more of a, it's like a quiz question for Trent too, actually.
Okay.
I'm a bit scared about where this is going.
So
to be
like,
honest.
I'm just gonna show you this image of Harrison Ford first, so like you get a bit of a vibe for how he feels.
Okay.
For the listener, the Harrison
listener,
Ford is
it
looking...
is quite an elderly Harrison Ford in this photo, and
Definitely
he's
not
not
prime.
he's not looking too pleased.
No.
So basically, everyone who's seen Rise of Skywalker, the new Star Wars movie,
Trent.
Which is definitely not me. Let's just-
this is why it's a trivia question for you, Trent.
okay.
Now, as everyone knows, including Trent, of course, the person asked him in an interview recently, when Han Solo showed up in the movie, was he a Force ghost or was he a figment of Kylo Ren's imagination?
Right.
What did Harrison Ford say to that question?
He definitely would have said that he was a figment of Kylo's imagination, right?
Do you want to know what his answer was?
Sure.
I have no fucking idea what a Force ghost is and I don't care.
So, I got a drone for Christmas, Trent.
Right.
And Dan and I were flying it around on Boxing Day. Well, first of all, can I say, my family Christmas turned into a booze fest on the weekend. Now, I in hindsight, I don't take my family as a lot of drinkers, but they drank a lot this Christmas. And
So this isn't a normal occurrence in the
kinda,
Wright household.
when I'm thinking back, maybe it is. But this basically the Byron brews that we're drinking now, I brought them to Christmas. One of my cousin's partners brought a slab. So we had 2 slabs of Byron brew.
Right.
Uncles were drinking spirits and all that. Anyway, we got quite bevved up, is basically what I'm saying. And when I came home, I got an Uber home after Christmas lunch, and I wanted to fly the drone because I was really excited. Because I charged it up in the morning.
And just for our listeners, this isn't a cheap drone either.
No. It's a DJI Maverick Mini, I think it's called. So it's got the camera. It's got the it's
It's a lot of money.
yeah. And I'm flying it around. I'm like clipping pallets. It's got it's back there. It's got a few dents on it from crashing into certain things. But I was a bit scared so I brought it back just to test the limits of it. But basically, bottom line is I'm still pushing the limits of this drone, and I'm really scared it's not going to make one of our productions because I'm going to lose it or crash it.
I think that's a pretty fair assumption
Yeah,
of
I
yourself,
agree with
Kyle.
that.
And remember when we flew it, we took it down past the cliffs. We took it below the altitude it took off on.
And I kept saying, oh, go further.
Yeah, we kept going further, flying over like people fishing, which they probably just hated. And I lost range. On the phone, you lose the signal.
Like
Oh,
black.
no.
And it just said, returning home. And it started going towards the cliff because it didn't go up and then back home because it was... Yeah, because we're more elevated than when we were flying.
Yeah.
So I had to like quickly just hold the up on the controller to get it to go up. But I was really scared I was going to crash it like straight away, just having it for like a day.
What would you do if, when it said to you it's returning home, that it didn't actually return home? It returned somewhere else.
It's got its own home. I want to ask you something.
Right.
When we sat around trying to come up with podcast ideas, we're going to do a top 5. We're going to do a top 10 list to start with.
Yes.
And then I was going to ask you to do a top 5 list.
Mm.
Because we thought top 10 was too stupid.
That's
and
right.
too many people do top 10.
Yeah.
Now, we had a top 5 list and we're going to rotate what the top 5 is, but you're going to kick it off with your
Right.
top 5
Right.
favourite soups.
Soups.
Yes, and I want you to, you have to remember, you can't just list soups. I don't want you throwing soups left, right, and centre. You've got to say why. You're going to justify it.
I
You
have to
gotta
justify it.
So,
Okay.
what are your top 5 favourite soups and why?
Well, look, I think I'll kick it off with my number 5.
Okay, so we're going down. So
We
5
are
is the
going.
least
So
favourite
5 is
soup.
my least. Well, 5 is the least favourite of my top 5 soups.
Can I ask, do you like soup?
I do like soup.
Do you like soup?
So I'm quite glad that you asked me this, Kyle.
Do you like soup?
It's just soup.
Would you order a soup out? Would you pay money for a soup?
No.
Okay. Would you pay money for a soup?
I would pay money. I would pay good money for a soup.
Okay.
So I'm glad you asked me this. It's been 25 years of my life, and I've waited for this opportunity
list.
for someone to ask me what my top 5 soups were. So to kick it off, number 5 is Heinz Big and Chunky
Yep.
steak and mushroom soup.
So you're going for brand from Woolies or
No, this is just any random soup.
Okay.
But I've chosen that particular canned soup to be number 5.
Yeah.
I just like how chunky it is. I don't know what part of the cow they use in it to be classed as steak,
Does it matter?
but it doesn't matter. It tastes fine. Number 4 on my list is pumpkin soup.
Simple pumpkin.
Simple pumpkin
Yeah.
soup. Could be made by anyone. Could be made by you.
Could be made by Dan.
I don't know if it could be made by Dan or not.
Harrison Ford.
Harrison Ford could definitely make it. That's number 4. I love a good pumpkin soup. Number 3 is my own homemade broccoli soup.
Homemade. Okay.
So
Broccoli.
it has to be broccoli soup, and it's a very simple broccoli soup. And I was actually inspired by the great chef Gordon Ramsay,
Yeah.
who basically made a broccoli soup on his show. And I thought, you know what? I reckon I could make a better soup than Gordon Ramsay. So I gave it a crack, and to my surprise, I'm pretty good.
This is number 2.
This is number 2.
Oh,
It was a very hard choice. Number 2 is vegetable soup,
Okay.
specifically made by my granny.
Okay, so Nan's vegetable soup.
My granny's vegetable soup.
Okay.
I don't know what's in it,
Yep.
but it tastes delicious.
Okay.
And I'm never going to ask what's in it.
Heinz beef.
On steak and mushroom.
Now, okay, don't look at Trent's screen.
I haven't been looking.
We're gonna say I want to guess what your number 1 soup is,
Right,
and Dee's gonna have a guess as well.
right.
Okay, can I? You don't tell us that we both had a guess.
Mm.
You don't look like a man who would like tomato soup. But I'm trying to think of other soups you haven't listed. And
Right.
there's one that stands out that you haven't listed.
Okay.
Now, do you have a thought of what soup? Because I'm going to say chicken noodle. What are you going to say?
I was gonna think, why the hell do you think tomato most basic one? But
I don't think you'll like tomato soup. He doesn't look like a tomato soup man.
it's not gonna be canned because apparently everyone's making it.
I'm going to say chicken noodle soup. D, what are you going to guess for Trent's number 1 favourite?
I'll go with Heinz beef soup.
What is it? What's your favourite soup?
So, Kyle, you were very close to the mark there, Kyle.
What is it?
It is chicken and sweet corn soup.
Oh, it was one...
Specifically from that traditional Chinese restaurant down Main Street, Mornington, Sun and May.
Okay, that's your favourite soup.
It is my hands down number 1 soup. The only reason to go to that shop, really.
Okay, well done, Trent.
That's my top
You
5.
fooled us. That's Trent's top 5 favourite soup. While we're doing this little segment that we may not ever go do again, do you have a top 5 list you'd like Dan or I to know?
So I would like Dan
Here we go.
to give me Dan's top 5 make and model motorcycles.
So for next week, Dan has to list his top 5 make and model motorcycles and why.
And completely justifiably as to why.
Because we could ask a question like, well, why did you not choose the X
That's
model?
right.
And then he has to justify it.
I'm really trying to think of like 5 motorcycles. I can only think of the one where Jim Carrey rides in Yes Man.
What about the ones in like World War II where the German officer like sits on the side and they're driving around? You know, like the little one with the little cart? Guys, I have this question box here.
Right.
I think we should answer a question. So this is for our newest segment. Dan, would you like to do the theme song for it? Ask us anything and we'll answer it.
Russell.
Now I have
anything.
so I have some fan submitted questions.
Yes.
Now some are anonymous for some reasons. They just want to be anonymous. Some have names on them.
Right.
And what I was thinking was, listener, if you'd like to ask us anything, we'll answer it. So we're going to answer some questions. Now, the rules for this segment as well, you can't say I don't know, and you can't not answer the question. You need to give them, it's kind of like Dan's advice, but it's on a more broader thing. I put it in this candle because I didn't have a box. But I would like, Trent, would you like to pick out one? And
I would love to pick out one, Kyle. So this is quite a long question.
Go on, read it out.
From Anonymous.
Okay.
Howdy, Bev Buds. I'm that one viewer you have on the Bacon Squash YouTube account of yours. Out of curiosity, what movie would each of you make next if you had no budget, location, or time constraints? I, for one, would love to see a musical starring Johnny/Torfley.
Wow. Okay, so what movie would you make if we had no budget or time constraints or anything? What movie would you want Bacon Squash to make is what they're asking.
We had no time constraints.
No, it's like you get to make it. What would you want to make, D?
A horror.
A horror?
Yeah.
What type of horror?
I don't know.
Like like monster horror or like...
Probably monster horror.
Yeah, okay.
Like some sort of creature horror.
Who would you want to be the main protagonist sort of thing?
I want you to be the guy stuck in the suit.
The monster?
Yeah.
Oh, great. That's because of Xenu, isn't it?
Yes.
When we went to film Hard West, we also tried to film another film that just didn't take off. But we bought an alien costume. Do you remember it, Trent?
I do.
So we called him
much.
Xenu, and he was this green big costume that was like airtight, and Dan had to play it. And one time we were filming at the swamp. We were filming in a swamp, and it was hot. It was middle of Jan. No, it was March, but it was still hot. And Dan had to wear this Xenu costume, and then you had to swap because a character you were playing were in the scene. So Johnny had to wear Xenu, and he just had like your face sweat and just like your hand sweat and your face sweat just wearing it.
There were two little holes the size of like your nose just to breathe out.
It was horrible. It was horrible. But do you want me to play the monster?
Yes,
Okay.
100%.
Okay. Well, there you go.
So I think that if we had no budget or time constraints,
Yeah.
I would love to revisit the 1920s.
Revisit what? Sorry.
The 1920s.
Like a noir.
Yeah,
crime sort
like
of
a
thing?
very
That'd
like
be
a
cool.
mafia type
Yeah,
sort of. Yeah.
Would you make it a comedy? Do you reckon?
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
well, not some. Yeah, like a comedy
Bit of
action.
mix.
Like
Yeah.
What about
Yeah,
you, Kyle?
I look honestly. I'd love to do a sci-fi, like a proper one. If we had a
Yeah.
budget and like that sort of stuff, a really good sci-fi would be fun to make.
So not spaceships made out of cardboard.
no Xenu.
No, gee.
Yeah, no, sci-fi or a really well. We started Bacon Squash, Trent, really from Book of the Dead. It's
Right.
a zombie film we made in year 12. Imagine a really good zombie film with a budget.
Yeah.
But us giving that another shot. That could be fun as well. So I'd probably toss up between one of those two. Should we draw another card?
Sure.
Here we go. Who's this from? This is from Anonymous. Hi, Beth Buds.
Isn't that the same handwriting as the one I just read out?
Because I got them off the internet. So I thought,
Oh.
It's like if you got Valentine's Day, but like
You're right,
but
Valentine.
your mum's sorry for you, so she runs her own.
No, listen, I had to outsource a lot of people for these questions. Hi, Bev Buds. I'm dealing with hemorrhoids for the past 8 months. Every 1 or 2 months they come back and it's really annoying. Also, what's the deal with Main Street being closed? Does anyone else struggle to find a park now as well? Please help me make my trips to Main Street more efficient. Anonymous, Mornington Peninsula. Danny,
So
would you
was
like
there a
to-
question in there, or is that just someone's life story?
There's two in one.
Just
But-
somebody needing to
I can see
get
why-
something off their chest.
I can see why they went anonymous for that. Dee, would you like to answer that question?
Well, hemorrhoids, you really should be taking care of that. Maybe
Well, they're saying it keeps coming back. That's the
Oh.
problem.
Putting some cream on it
maybe
or
because they're
something.
sitting around too much in their car, stuck around Main Street.
Trying to find a car park.
Can we talk about that? I love
What about
what they've done
hemorrhoids?
with Main Street.
Yeah.
Like it's a nightmare to park. For those who don't live around here, Main Street is closed off because of COVID, but they've been talking about doing it for years where
Well,
basically you can walk down the street.
Yeah.
Because I like that because they've closed off both ends.
Yeah.
They've given the people that own the restaurants more space to have diners, and you just walk on the street there, and it's kind of like it's like a pedestrian mall. I really like it.
Have you eaten out?
Yeah. Have you?
I have not yet, but I've seen, particularly down in Rosebud, a place called Spitfire. They have branched out
Yeah.
to do that same sort of thing.
Yeah.
But you're left with these plastic chairs and tables that have been set up on the road.
Right. Okay. Because Main Street's got the grass turfs, and they've like each place has decorated it a bit, so it's not like
Right.
you're just sitting in a
On
shitty
the-
car
on the-
park
on the
like,
road, yeah.
But to agree with this this fan submission, it is a nightmare to get a park.
Right.
Because it cuts out all the parking on Main Street.
Yeah.
So how would you help with that? I would say just plan your trip a bit better, really.
Yeah. Or, like we were talking about earlier, maybe do a ride share. You know,
Into Main
take an Uber into Main Street. Or
Yeah, if you
something that
wanna-
requires you not having to park.
Or just don't go there to drive there, really. It's
Yeah.
just like, yeah. Well, should we do the last one? Who wants to read the last one? Who's this one from?
This is from Ava up in the Gold Coast.
Okay, well, there you
Ooh,
go.
a real person. Here we go.
Did she write it and bring all the way down here?
She did.
What were your... Jeez, this is going to take you right back. Put on your thinking caps for this
Okay,
one, fellas.
mine's on.
What were your first impressions of each other?
Oh, like...
Well, I think from memory. The earliest memory of each other.
Yeah,
that we
okay.
can think of.
Well, I met Dan in a tree in primary school.
A tree.
And he was hanging out with the kid at school who, like, I'm not going to name names, but no one really wanted to hang out. And it was the kickball grand final in grade 4.
Right.
We would have a kickball grand final.
Yeah, your team cheated.
My team won, and his team lost, and we were both out, and were you in that?
I was in
You were in Dan's
yeah,
team.
I was.
Okay. Yeah, basically we were both out, and Dan was sitting in a tree. I went over to said tree to get some shade because it was hot that day. And the guy he was with, the annoying one that no one really wanted to associate with, was being annoying, shocking.
Mm.
And Dan looked at me and he said, "Just ignore him. He's annoying." And
Little did you know, to this day, Dan was actually talking about himself.
So, and then, anyway, that's the first time I met Dan, and then my first impression was, why is he hanging out with this person? And how can I?
I couldn't tell you.
And then we got stuck in the same class the following year, and that's when we became friends.
I also have a first impression of Dan from memory. Well, from my earliest memory, I can't remember what year we were in, but we were pretty young.
Yeah.
And it was cross country. And it was about, I'd say about 80% through the race.
Mm-hmm.
And I was towards the back. I was never quite as fit as others.
Mm.
And I noticed this guy trailing back, like a very way back from the back. And I thought, this guy, he's going to come last.
Yeah. As long as you beat him, you're socially acceptable.
That's right. That's right.
Look at what against you.
So I did the right thing.
Mm-hmm.
I stepped aside and I stood there and I waited for him to catch up.
Yeah.
And I ran across the line with him. And that person was Dan.
And that's your earliest memory.
That's my earliest memory. But
I vividly remember that because I remember thinking, why is this person walking with me?
Dan's probably going, here's this annoying guy.
No, I actually thought, I think because, I was so socially awkward back then, I generally thought you were taking the piss at the fact of how slow and, I didn't run at all. So I was like, oh, I'll try my best.
Trent, my first time I met you, I remember you, was your mum was talking to my mum about how she had to buy you a shaver for Christmas. And I remember thinking, how the fuck does this guy need a shaver, whereas I've just barely got any, facial hair or anything. I think it would have been in the end of grade 5 or grade 6.
End of grade 5, yeah.
And that's my first impression of you, was just wow, this guy must be really hairy.
And you weren't wrong, Kyle.
No, I wasn't.
So I guess I just want to talk about potential merch ideas for the show.
Go on.
Well, I just want to put it out to the listener, I guess. What suggestions do they have that we get? I mean, you've got the cliche, t-shirt. I feel like the obvious choice for Bev Buds would be a stubby holder.
Yes.
But I feel like we need to have something a bit different, a bit left of field, a bit something you wouldn't think of to put merch on. So I'm gonna throw that out to the listener.
That's good.
To give us some suggestions about what merch we should bring in.
I like that, because at the moment our merch is a shirt and a hat. Really.
That's right.
And it's a mugs. We got
The
some
mug,
mugs.
yes.
Brew our own beer.
We brew. That's genius, dude. And sell it for a really inflated price. Can I give you guys a movie suggestion to watch so we can talk about next potty?
Sure.
I want you guys to watch Monsters of Men. Monsters of Men. It came out this year.
Isn't that
The band?
Yeah.
No, it's a movie. I'm pretty sure it's called Monsters of Men. I'll give you a real very base premise, but I'm not going to spoil it because I got told off for spoiling.
And you haven't seen this, Dan?
Dan hasn't seen it.
Right.
Because you go too vivid.
No, I watched it the other week.
Oh, this is the main character, and his wife dies at the end.
Yeah, this is the entire story of the movie, but I want you to watch it.
No, I watched it the other week with Rose, and we both really liked it. and I don't think many people have watched it. It just came out, and I think you guys would like it. It reminds me very much of a movie you feel like you're being forced to watch as a kid, like as a teenager.
That's great.
We used to have a friend that used to make us watch all kinds of crap, and it just really is nostalgic of that. But it basically was made for $3 million by a guy from WA, I think.
Right.
It was filmed in Cambodia, and all the premise is, I'll just give you a small premise with spoiler free, is basically it's about the 4 robots that are sent they're like test robots by the military in the US to wipe out a Cambodian village where there's American civilians in to do aid work.
Right.
And it's about these 4 killer robots that are controlled by like drones, basically, kind of like my drone. And it's about people trying to survive these robots like killing everyone.
Yeah.
And that's the premise of the movie. It's very simple, very like old school niche sort of. Reminds me kind of like a Predator or something like that.
Right. I will give it a watch.
I recommend it.
However, in my head, I'm just picturing a very, very low budget
It was made
guys
for
walking around in some tin suits.
very low budget. Something we can make. No. How's your bevs going? D, have you half finished both of the bevs?
It's like, alright, here's a question. When you've gone out to a horrible club and it's like, you get that certain time where you know, like, no matter what, the bathrooms are going to be really disgusting.
Oh, yeah.
Have you ever got there and, like, someone's pissed all over the toilet seat?
Yes.
Do you lift up do you even bother touching the seat?
So you're talking about, is it like herd mentality? Like, is it like, this toilet's
It's
just
already
ruins?
there. You're like, it's already ruined. You may as well just...
Like, this place is just ruined.
I had, when I was on my road trip, there was like a side of the freeway, a rest stop, but it was like out in the middle of nowhere to the point where you can't, there's no like tap water or anything.
Yeah.
Or it's like, it says like, don't drink the tap water. Like, you're in the middle of nowhere, like hours from any other place.
Yeah.
And I go into the toilet. First of all, the men's toilet's closed. So I'm like, oh, great. I've got to like use the disabled toilet. Because that's it. There was a female toilet or the disabled toilet. And it was occupied. So I'm sitting there waiting. Guy leaves. I go in there. It is the most disgusting public restroom I've ever seen. What is the point of that? Why do people just decide to be animals in public restrooms as well? Anyway, I go to the bathroom, but the toilet is clogged. Like, it was just disgusting. And I go to the bathroom, and I come out, and the cleaner's there. And I'm like... and I'm thinking to myself, like, this guy is going to think... I've just done this to this bathroom. And so I just like get back to the car and Rose isn't back yet. She's like getting a drink or like having stretching her legs. I just want to get out of here before this guy turns around and tells me off for just destroying this bathroom. It was disgusting. It was absolutely disgusting.
Oh.
We should probably wrap up.
Yeah, I think that probably brings us to the end of our second podcast.
How's the Byron brew for the second bev?
Look,
I
really enjoyed half of it, and half of the goon. Great.
I really liked it.
Yeah.
But I don't know whether that's because I'm comparing it to the goon I just had, or whether it's actually a genuinely nice beer.
Yeah.
I think I've had this one before though, and I do rate it pretty
Very
highly.
easy.
So. Yeah, it is very
I
easy.
think it tastes quite nice. Compared to most beers, I am not a beer person.
They went down very well Christmas Day.
They did. So, yeah, next podcast will be Dan's choice. So,
Dan's
very
choice.
much looking forward to it.
So, Dan, you're choosing the next bev. And, yeah, if you are in part of this little movie club we've just started, give Monsters of Men a shot.
So, yeah, as I said earlier, if the one listener that's listening to the show has any suggestions or anything they'd like to throw past our way, then we'd be more than happy to read it and throw it in the bin.
And keep sending in those suggestions. They were good.
That's right.
Anyway, alrighty, well, we'll see you next time.
See you later.